This video is going to walk through some possible answers for the frequency table questions within this practice. Now, keep in mind when building these frequency tables, you might have used a different pie chart data, so your frequency table might look a little different, but the process and the sort of thought process going behind building them should be the same. So the first frequency table question asks us to take our pie chart and turn it into a frequency table. Now what you'll notice on the screen is I actually have already set up my frequency table. I just need to fill in the data. So I have the categories listed, and I might be a little more specific here, I realize, so that first column's for our categories, but I actually like to say what the categories are. It's sort of like the title to our chart. So we're going to have political party of U.S. presidents. All right, so we now have political party of U.S. presidents, and we got all our different political parties. Frequency is going to be our count. Relative frequency is our percentage. Cumulative relative frequency is then sort of adding up that relative column. Now, without doing anything, I could just start going in and filling in my relative frequency, because those are going to be the percentages that we see right here on the pie chart. So notice 8.7%, 34.8%, 41.3%, the 2.2, 8.7, and then a bunch more 2.2s. So, that might help a little, if we go through and we're just going to start filling that in. So, relative frequency then, we got our 8. Erase that. So I'm going to exit out of the drawing so that I can go back to typing. So this would be 8.7%. And then Democrats is that 34.8%. And then Republican was 41.3%. And I'm sort of, I set up mine up. So the order you put your categories in when it comes to qualitative data from the pie chart really doesn't matter. I know some people who want to go from biggest chunk of the circle to smallest chunk of the circle. I really just sort of went around my circle. I want to make sure I have all the sort of spots within my circle, covered. Every category should be covered. And that's sort of where the cumulative frequency is going to help me check. Because as I sort of work through the cumulative frequency, I should be getting the total that I'm looking for. So the first square, we just have 8.7%. But then the next one down, that should be the 8.7% plus the 34.8. And so that comes out to 43.5%. And then I would keep going. So on the next one, I would take that 43.5 and I would add that to 41.3. And I get 84. And so you keep going. You might be going, ooh, I'm getting really big. But what you should find is notice these last few aren't really big. And so as I add the percents to them, I get closer and closer to 100, with the goal being that the really last one, 7.5 plus 2.2, and then 97.9 plus 2.2. And you might be going, wait a minute, stop the presses, we're over 100%. It's rounding errors. That's just from, those percentages are all slightly rounded, and in being slightly rounded, that's about 100%. So I didn't miss any sections of my circle. We're close enough to 100 that we're going to call it. But I do want to go back and just do the counts. So the counts are for this data. And the nice thing with a pie chart is if you're not on editing mode and you click on a section, you'll notice it pops out the percent as well as the number. So like for Democrats, that was 16. And so I can go in this box and I can type 16. And Democratic Republican was 4. And then the nice thing is I have a bunch of them at 2.2%. So if I figure out what that, that's 1. And so all of these ones that had 2.2%, they had counts of 1. And then the Republicans were 19. And my National Union Party, I didn't even know that one was a party. Oh no, that's Whig, sorry. I was going to be like, Whigs were 4. And then you do want to make sure those total up correctly. So the nice thing sometimes when I use Excel, I like to have it do totaling just to make sure that, our numbers make sense. And we do have 46, and we have 46 presidents, so it's good. It worked out. Yay! And that would be how we make one of these for qualitative data. With quantitative data, it's going to be pretty similar, and I'm going to flip to this sheet, but you'll notice that instead of categories, we have sort of our data ranges, and I pulled those directly off this histogram. So my histograms for ages of U.S. presidents, and you'll notice how Google Sheets works is it typically includes the value in the bucket below. So like 75 would be, would be included in this, the bucket above, sorry, would be included in this bucket versus this bucket. So just a little note to sort of as you set this up. So that's why I use the brackets versus parentheses. It's just where the data point is included. So looking, and again, just like with pie charts, we don't get the numbers written out, but if I sort of highlight over a bar, it tells me how many are in that group. So I'll notice in this first group from 40 to 45, there are 2 presidents. And I like to go through and get all my frequencies first, and then I'm going to go through and get, so we got 7 in the next group, 13, and then 12. And so it's that highlight over the cursor that allows me to sort of pull up this, and then we got 7. Oops. Helps if I go in the right box. And then 65, we're down to 3. And I'm going to bet those last 2 are 1. Yep. 1, 1. Now, this total, again, should be 46. But I'm actually going to check it in the cumulative frequency column, because the cumulative frequency is like the relative frequency, and that we're totaling to sort of check our frequency table, but we're going to be totaling the frequency column. So this time we start with 2 here, and then the next row would be 2, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, 2 plus 7, always fun when you're on a computer, which is 9. And then I'm going to take that 9 and I'm going to add 13 to it because that's the amount in the next row. And then I'm going to do 22 plus 12, and then the next row would be 34 plus 7, and then we have 41 plus 3, and I'm already can tell I'm heading for the right values because we get 1 in each row in the bottom, which gives us a total of 46 presidents. Yay! All right, now we do have to do a little bit of work for our relative frequency. Unfortunately, the work's not done for us. So we need to turn our frequency values into a percent. So it's important, just like we did, we wanted those totals. So we know there's 46 total presidents. And so if I want the relative frequency for this first row, I'm going to do 2 divided by 46, and I want to turn that into a percent. So I'm going to times it by 100. And you might be going, ooh, that's a big number. So one thing you can do, we would just want to round that. And I'm going to sort of slightly cheat a little and have my spreadsheet do the percentage for me. So that is a choice, you know, when I'm in, why does it keep doing that? Say, okay. And so you're doing the part divided by the total to get your percents. So 13 divided by 46. Not 6, 46. And, you know, and little checks, you know, the bigger the frequency, the bigger the relative frequency. You know, so far this makes sense. My next one should be slightly smaller than the one before. And it is. It's 26% versus 28%. We already did 7%, so I'm just going to copy that data point. And now I have 3 out of 46, which should be a little more than 2, but a little less, you know, than 7. So we got 6.5. And then we got 1. So 1 divided by 46, turn that into a percent, and it's 2%, which makes sense. It's less than 2, what we had for 2 presidents. And if we were to total this column, it would approximately total 100%. And notice it does. I did a little bit of coding there with my Google Sheets. You know, there are formulas possible within those. If you're interested in knowing more about those, I would love to talk to you about that. But it's not something you have to be able to do. Hopefully this helps give you a better sense of how to approach these frequency tables. You know, they're similar to the ones we did in class. Again, you know, it's really just taking the data back out of our data display and sort of organizing them in a more summarized fashion than that entire spreadsheet of data.